Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend and is ready for your trading week. I have the legend himself, BigBeat of Wall Street. How you doing, my friend Steve?
I'm good. I don't usually gamble. I don't, not the biggest fan of it, but I won a little bit of money over the over/under. I think while the game was pretty boring, and I believe that the ads were pretty boring, and the halftime show was terrible. Look, still 200 million people around the globe still turned into it.
Yeah, there is no doubt people turn in the same thing. The celebs were all there, right? All the high profile people were there. I saw them from President Trump, first seated president
That's
to
right.
attend it. I saw Tom Emer next to him. It was interesting to see who sort of went to him. You can kind of see how that sort of crew is evolving, I guess you would say, right?
Yeah, and it's
So
also good to see, the support of New Orleans itself, right? Like you said, the first
absolutely.
sitting president ever to go to a sporting event of that size, the Super Bowl. And look, that's great support, and I think New Orleans really put on a good show on the pre-show with Shorty Trombone and things of that nature. And New Orleans was on full display, after Katrina and all kinds of things that have happened. And of course, the truck that went into the French Quarter.
Yeah.
That shows good things, right? But Trump comes right on out late last night and saying we're going to put 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. All right.
Yeah.
So that's, I've complained and harped on tariffs, but these are things that actually I believe are correct when it comes to the United States, right? We don't want to see dumping of things onto the United States. One of the things that we saw in the past was dumping of Japanese dishwashers and washer and dryers in the past, and there was tariffs back in the 80s and 90s on that, and Whirlpool, WHR went through the roof.
Yeah.
And I like this. I mean, I think Alcoa, Cleveland's Cliff here you're showing these companies will do very well, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And
we're definitely
sporting,
going to talk a lot about this over the next few days, especially today. I have made a watch list of all of the companies, both steel companies, and then I went out and asked ChatGPT some questions, asked you some questions this morning, and expanded that into a couple of different fields. Things like John Deere that you might not think will be a beneficiary definitely will, because they use a lot of steel in their building. If we're
yeah.
using U.S. steel and that's going to be cheaper because of the money being spent here, those are all things that are benefits. So we have put together a nice little watch list, as you can see here, probably 25, 30 names to keep an eye on. But the steel industry is definitely moving up on that news. And as you said, Steve, you've been telling me this morning, I agree with you. Some of these things, when it comes to industries, this is an industry that you have to make sure America is great at, right?
I mean, we built the BESPA process and we lead in it all around the world. The question is, and we know this, is who makes the best steel? And the best steel in the world is the United States. But what happens? Sometimes we buy cheaper steel, right? Because steel is steel. But I don't think that's the case. I think that we're going to start to see more U.S. steel being produced in this country. The question is construction. Do we continue in that construction phase? And we're not seeing that. We saw the new construction numbers last week. They did not come out the right that we wanted them to. So no, and I can see why that the president has put these tariffs on to slow that down. So yes, most definitely. I totally
I
agree
guess
with
I would point to something, because we're going to talk in a second about copper that you and Peter Thomas talked about. What
yeah.
I'm looking at for some of these is there's no doubt that building has to come in some areas of the U.S. right now because of things that have happened, catastrophically with fire in L.A., with
Yeah.
like we saw in North Carolina, the rebuilding that's still going on there. Down to your area in Florida, some of the rebuilds from the hurricanes. So I do think that there is going to be some demand now that is going to work its way through those markets. That's why MLM is one of the ones on this list. I know you've always been a fan of Martin Marietta, as somebody who builds our roads, our infrastructure, our bridges. Even there, right in Baltimore, they got to rebuild that bridge. It's a few $1 billion worth of money being spent there. That's going to be steel, right?
And I mean, I was in Tampa over the weekend and I saw new roads that I didn't even know existed. All of a sudden, those are all being built by the same companies. So most definitely, yeah. I mean, look, we are having construction slow down, but it's more to the cities. And I like that, right? We're seeing the cities being rebuilt, and that is a good thing. And if that's the case, then we could see some more movement in the retail sector too, as well. As those construction workers come in, they spend their money, right? They're spending them in the restaurants, or spending them in the bars, or spending them getting new clothes, all those kind of fun things. So look, it's just not one thing about building something and that's the company. It's about all the way down.
And like you're saying that, I have the e-commerce, as you know, is one of my sectors.
Yeah.
All of them in the green here, pre-market, every single one of them. So definitely falling in line. A couple, as we look at more individual stocks here that have had earnings today, McDonald's, one of the ones you and I have been talking about for months here, up pretty nicely here on an earnings miss. You and I have talked about this. I'm a little surprised by the investor reaction. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't get it. You know, I've been talking about it for a few months now. Look, McDonald's has come down in price. I get that, and the price of the stock has gone up, but the price of the food has gone up. We know that, right, because of inflation. But we talk about it from the weight loss drugs situation, right? A lot of people are on the weight loss drugs, and you started to see where people were getting away from the McDonald's and the fast food restaurants, and you saw it. Same store sales are way down. Why is the stock price up? I think the problem that we might are not quite seeing is that their guidance might be a little higher as they start to move around their menu a bit, right?
Right.
With their breakfast changes, with their changes in maybe high calorific food, that may be another problem. But gosh, you got a poster right here, the E. coli breakout. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's why the earnings miss isn't bothering people so much. Is, let's face it, they went through a tough quarter because they had the onion issue where they had E. coli, and that might have hurt it. So maybe people are thinking. To me, another negative takeaway as someone who spent a lot of time in the restaurant business is they brought up that over 33% of their business is now composed of their $5 value menu. And we know what that did to Subway stock when that was a huge component there, $4 footlongs. So that worries me. The only thing that I said, maybe, is it mean that they're grabbing more foot traffic, and that maybe is a positive. But I'd be looking to fade it personally.
I mean, it's all Red Lobster with all you can eat shrimp, right? And then that ruined the company. So, I mean, we gotta be careful here. Now there is something that's interesting in McDonald's. I did see that where they are planning on increasing the number of locations. Oh, there it is coming up now.
Big time, yeah. 2,200 new restaurants.
200 new locations. Now, I don't think that those locations are going to look the same as the old McDonald's, right? They're going to look like the new ones. They're going to look much nicer, probably in places like mixed-use buildings. That's a different situation. Okay, it's more foot traffic, as you just said. Maybe they're picking up orange juice and not drinking a Coke. Those kind of things, maybe they're changing. But McDonald's, no, it's not a winner for me right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. And though I was interesting. I wonder if we'll see these new restaurants too. I had read an article in Wall Street Journal either last week or the week before about how Chick-fil-A has redone all of their sort of franchisee plans, and it's so focused on drive-through. People don't actually eat at Chick-fil-A's, and they've actually opened up their first few that don't even have an inside, where they're drive-through only now. So maybe that kind of move by McDonald's, we'll see if maybe the CEO, they are doing their earnings call as we are talking here. So we'll see if that comes out a little bit there. Steve, I wanted to bring up one that you had talked about with Peter Thomas on Thursday, and we see it sort of coming out now. Copper, right? Copper is going to go up tremendously, and we're going to have a need for it due to, and it wasn't where I thought it was in the electronic components that go into these houses that need to be rebuilt in LA, but due to the weather and the salt water and everything there, they use copper for their plumbing. So
that's right. They do. Yep.
Was up nicely today. And part of the reason on that is that they got approval in Indonesia to continue or to now export. They had been a freeze in Indonesia, up about 2.28% here. It's one that's got an interesting little chart here. Again, bottomed out a little bit here. It looks like maybe I'd like to see a little cup and handle here, and then could be interesting for a move here. see if it can break the 50-day MA, but it's been beaten pretty badly down because they couldn't get any copper out of Indonesia. So it could be one to look at here, maybe for a rebound play there.
Yeah, Freeport McMoran, obviously they dig, right? And they're the ones that go out there and look for the stuff. Interestingly enough about Freeport is that they don't just dig up copper, that whatever comes up out of the ground, they get to sell that too, right? And they have a huge area, a swath of land that they can dig from, and more land than they actually dig out of. So I do like it down here a lot. If you look at a weekly chart, you can see we might have, to me, maybe bottomed out a bit with Freeport, FCX. That's usually a good spot to buy. I'm not talking about to buy or sell, but I do like what they're doing. I do like that they are the heavy metals sector, so they're going to do quite well in the next 4 years under Trump.
Yeah, so definitely one I'm keeping an eye on, like I said, especially after that talk you guys had on Thursday and broke it all down. I was looking and saw that they were one of the ones moving this morning, so could be an interesting one here, definitely on Freeport. Steve, I saw another one. I don't know if you saw yet on Friday. MGO had moved up, MGOL actually had moved up 124%, and now up another 62% today. That's MGO Global, and I did find out by looking a little more into it that they are merging with Heidmar, and that is the reason for this jump up here. So,
and I can't tell you how many times you and I have talked about mergers and acquisitions are going to happen, and they're this is just the beginning. As the FTC has been dismantled with Lisa Khan now finally out, thank God, the world can keep moving now. Mergers and acquisitions, bigger companies are acquiring smaller companies, and that's okay because sometimes you need that,
right.
and things need to happen. So this is one of those good examples of this, and good for them. So
yeah. I do have another interesting one. I know you brought it up. I saw it on CNBC. Trump has ordered the Treasury to stop producing pennies. And it actually makes sense every way you look at it. If it costs 3.7 cents to make a penny, why are we making them?
Should have happened years ago. I've screened about this a long time ago. It should have happened a long time ago. I don't know why it never happened. When things cost more than they are to make, I will tell you that people who collect pennies or should say any kind of coin, they're going to go okay. I mean, the price of the penny is going to go up. Those wheat pennies and all those things, that Indian head pennies that you've seen in the past, they're going to go on up.
Yeah, I had a laugh. I actually looked at a penny after that came out this morning. I didn't know they even changed the back of the penny. Now doesn't even have the bird on it, the eagle on it anymore. It's now like just a crest. So I tells you how often I had looked at.
And we've gotten away from copper pennies many years ago, right? Yeah. So now that penny in the back, is worth more than it's ever been worth. It's the cost to make the penny is just silly, right? I think it's like 10 cents to make the penny.
No, 3.7.
3.7. There you go. Okay. Yep. And probably even distribution of the penny talk still, right?
Forget how many millions of dollars we lose a year by producing pennies. It was actually up there. It's going to save it's a big number. It's like $150 million. Let's save that $150 million.
A lot of people at $150 million.
Steve, to talk a little bit about gold here, surged to a new all-time high. You were breaking it down for me this morning a little bit about what you and Peter talked about off the air after we were done the other day. Did you want to share a little bit there about what's going on in the world?
It pays to watch, right? I mean, this is not a live show that, doesn't bring on the quality people, right? And this is why we have Peter Thomas and people like this on here to give us the exact reason why things are happening. It's not, oh my God, this meme stock, right? Here's what's going on in gold. And Peter broke it down for you, and we talked about this, right? The central banks around the world are buying gold at the fastest clip ever in history, right? The Russian central bank is buying it. European central banks are buying it. China is letting their people buy gold, okay? Put that in perspective. Billion people now buying gold. The biggest country in the world is buying gold, obviously, is India. Second largest is China. I mean, China is now allowing their people to buy gold. The China Central Bank is buying gold. That's why we've said this, $3,000 an ounce is where we're going. I mean, we're going to go $3,000 an ounce. And Peter said, yeah, China is going to start buying it. He told you that a week ago. And now we're seeing those in the headlines now, a week ago. That's the kind of stuff that we're doing here.
Yep. Same thing with copper. He was all over that. Silver has pulled back down below that 32 level, Steve. So it doesn't look like it's ready to make that move to 50. You guys both agreed that that is where it's going, but it doesn't look like it's ready yet. We'll see if it consolidates here.
Interestingly enough, Peter did say $42 an ounce, so I like that. I totally understand that.
Yep. So moving up, natural gas up about a 0.5 percentage point here today, but it's been pretty stable in this 350, 360 area. I don't, this is sort of no man's land for me. It's sort of too high to trade either way.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so the biggest user of nat gas is Europe. All right, the price of nat gas has gotten so high. Now, the other thing that they use is coal, and coal prices have come down quite heavily. But it's oil. They are literally going after oil to start that situation. So I think nat gas might be topping out here. I think that's why you're probably seeing a little bit of a pullback. Look, it's already February, so March, April, May, June, July, it's warmer. Yeah, you still use a little bit of nat gas for air conditioning and things of that nature. But no, I think
not nearly the amount.
Right, they're not nearly the amount, nat gas. And if the price is too high and people don't want to pay it, guess what? They're not going to pay it.
But again, I have to laugh. Last Sunday, tariffs got talked about. Market opened up tremendously down Monday, right?
Right.
Today, tariffs again last night, and the QQQs, Nasdaq up 82 basis points here, 53 basis points on the SPY. We look ready to open up, with a nice little green star. Are you surprised, or what changed?
Not really sure, to be honest with you. I mean, you look at it from that perspective, people just aren't that interested right now.
Yeah, it just is interesting. Seeing WTI and Brent moving up here, I was actually surprised because we've seen those move up over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And I noticed gas was actually cheaper around me over the weekend, which is, normally you try to get it on Friday morning because by Saturday they go up every week.
Right.
So
looks like oil seems to have put a bottom in. I just showed the banner there a few minutes ago about Russia now says that oil has fallen below OPEC's numbers, and so because of that, I think you might see some pullback in the exports of oil here. So we might actually have right now a bottom here in oil here. We might be seeing probably 74, 75 again. And Trump is still resupplying the SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and he says he wants to overfill it. So I don't think he really cares about the price. $150 million to buy a lot of oil, by the way, that we just saved on the penny, right? So I like this kind of stuff. This is stuff we should be doing.
And then, Steve, we'll go right into rates a little bit here. You and I were talking a little bit about how rates have sort of reacted. It's been a mixed bag. They are still moving a little bit to the downside. We see the 10-year still below 4.5, the 30-year below 4.7. But more talk about these yields moving to the upside. I just put a banner in about junk bonds flashing a warning sign. I thought this was one that we should touch on because you gave me a lot of information on this before we came in. Why is it such a problem that junk bonds are picking up pace, especially high yielding junk bonds?
Yeah, it's very simple. When the big firms, institutions are out there looking for alpha, they're looking to make more money. They have to go other places, and they have to do it. In order to do that, you got to put on more risk. And, I think junk bonds in a lot of ways get a lot of bad rap because of the word junk itself. What it means, what junk bonds means is it's lower grade, right? We rate our bonds A, B, C, D, and we rate them A, AAA. When you hear AAA rated bonds, that means the highest quality, and they don't have to raise their rates as much because they're more safe, right? So as a junk bond, that means that they're probably C rated or lower, and they have to raise their rates to attract those investors to be able to do that, right? And so when you do that, sometimes they do default, and that's why they're called junk bonds. So right now, when you see a huge move into buying junk bonds, that means they're looking for alpha because they can't find it anywhere else, right? They can't find it in the stock market. They can't find it in this case, copper and silver and gold, we've just been talking about because they think it's too high. They start to migrate to the junk bond business. Now, when that happens, that's usually a bad sign. It usually happens about sometimes 12 to 16 to 18 months later, we see bad things happening, right? That they can't find alpha anywhere else. They've gone to the last place. They're gonna milk that area, and they do. And then, of course, the market falls apart. So listen, I'm not saying the market's going to fall apart, but we've been talking about it for a while. And this is what, if you listen to market wizards out there, they're telling you, hey, I can't find anywhere else. I'm going to go play in the bond market here. That's bad. We know that the bond market has been a mess, and we know that, right? So here it is. And now they're showing you they're going to the junk bond market. So listen up. This is not usually a good sign.
Yeah, I guess my question or my takeaway also is what we've seen in everybody we talk to, that is a major player like Jay Woods at Freedom Capital or Matthew Tuttle over at Tuttle Capital. They're making it clear you can't be a long-term buyer of stocks right now. You can't hold it. It's moving. So, to me, that my other takeaway is that they have more confidence that the junk bonds will be worth what they say they're worth as they do on stocks moving up appreciably and not just being this volatile choppiness that we've seen. So I guess my takeaway there is that we're still in for more choppiness, right?
Well, choppiness, I think it's going to be where we move from asset class to asset class quicker than we normally do. What does that mean? Usually when you're an institution, your institution is just around oil, or it's just around gold, or it's just around some asset class. What they're doing now is they're jumping from asset class to asset class faster than they normally would. Hey, if you watch the talking heads on TV, they're saying, okay, we're starting to invest in this area, or we're investing in this. That speed at which they're going to be jumping asset class to asset class is going to be way faster now. And they're going to be like, okay, we're in gold now today, and today we're in this. That's the problem right now. That's why this move in the junk bond market this quick is this is a telltale sign.
Right, makes sense. There a couple of winners though, Steve. I did want to mention that all 11 of the Spider Sector funds are so far opening up in the green. Again, those represent the 11 different sectors of the S&P. And then overseas, we did have the stocks is up about 50 basis points. Shanghai Composite finished up about, again, 56 basis points. And the Japanese Nikkei with a nice move up about 1.22%. So tariffs don't seem to be bothering the foreign markets much overnight here so far.
I was reading an article in Bloomberg yesterday saying that the headlines on tariffs, people are just kind of like, whatever anymore now, because there's no more bite now from Trump, whether or not those tariffs are really going to stick or not, because he's pulling back from them. It is interesting, right? I don't know that I would agree with that, because the one thing I will always say about Donald Trump is if he says he's going to do it, you may not like it or you may love it, but he's going to do it in some way. He's going to do it. I mean, he says he's going to get rid of the penny. Guess what happens? He's going to get rid of the penny. I mean, we need to listen to him because he's the president, and he has expanded executive orders here. I think he's expanded, and I think he's overstepped his boundary as president. But there's no one to stop him right now. So you know what? He doesn't have a Supreme Court to stop him. And he's getting rid of the regulators. We saw the banking regulators just got relieved of their jobs. Can you believe that? So this is why you're seeing junk bonds being moved to, right? Here's a good one, for example. Type in HYG as a stock symbol. Now, if you want to take advantage of this bond yield problem, here it is. It's HYG, right? If you want to take a good swath at high yield bonds, junk bonds, this is how you do it. HYG. Another one is SCYB.
I will point out this is almost at all-time highs. It's trading right now at 79.52, 80.37. Tells you a little bit of exactly what you're saying. And when you watch, it's picked up in September as we went through the election, and now it just continues to move up. Yeah. What was the second one?
You can also type in JNK. Another one's JNK. That's the Bloomberg version of it, right? And from that, it sports a nice dividend yield too. People, you can wait it out, right? This is what they're saying, right? You can
6.58%.
Correct. Yeah. So if you feel you can probably win both ways if you're a longer term holder of it. You're an investor, not a trader, right? You're an investor. This is a great way to invest. And we see it, the moves in the junk bonds. So if there's more money in those accounts, they buy more junk bonds. They make more money. Their yield goes up, then the stock price goes up. So this is how it works.
Yep, that's not a bad one. DXY taking off again. Looks like it's headed to 109. We'll have Mr. Flanagan in at 10 o'clock. Ask him here what we think. Did get rejected at the key level 108.58 that he's talked about here in the past. A break above that, he's looking for it to move to 110. The other thing I thought was interesting is that, again, Euro down, sterling down, continuing to fade versus the King dollar. So,
yeah.
That, King dollar still winning the day. Another stock, Steve, that's been moving up nicely here this morning has been Rockwell Automation.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't know where that has all that in there.
Got the news on, looks like. Yeah, Rockwell Automation, another one of those, electrical builds companies that does all that. For me, I like Rockwell Automation. I also like Honeywell, HON. These stocks are going to do very well, especially if Trump's tariffs go right on. These companies could be the ones that people pick up. So I like this move here.
Yeah, and Rockwell had a nice beat of $1.83 on its EPS versus an estimate of 158. Their revenue did fall on the top line level slightly, but what they saw was a 10% year-over-year growth on new orders. So investors thinking it's signaling some potential future growth. They did also give some guidance. They maintained their EPS forecast between $8.60 and $9.80. Wall Street was projecting right in the middle there, so that didn't really move it. And the CEO cited macroeconomic and policy uncertainties, but he highlighted major strategic orders in the key U.S. industries. So we have seen it move up. It had been down about 5.3% year to date. So nice little move up here by Rockwell Automation. Steve, another one, SMCI, we've been watching this for the last, 6-7 months, right? They are going to get in front of the mic tomorrow. They are going to do finally their, I think it's Q3 earnings, and talk about their fact that they do have a new accounting firm and that they are looking to become, compliant in each way.
Yeah.
Do you start to like it here? If it gets, tomorrow, you're going to wait and see what they say. And are you interested maybe if they do have their stuff together?
Where
was trading at 122.
Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire, and they've had some problems. This is not a normal fire with SMCI. Do they have a new accounting firm? Yes. Will they do the Taylor Swift and shake it off? Pun intended from last night. But I'm not sure. I don't think so. I do like their products, but man, they have really. They've come close to being delisted. The NASDAQ is not happy with them. I'm not sure that I could really put my money there to them. But it's a trader's play today, right? So I get that. Okay, but I'm not one that's willing to bet my money on it.
Steve Ron was asking POWL with a question mark there. I think he's asking about
Powell Industries. Yeah, okay. Powell Industries is one that is a little bit different. They are more okay. Let's pull up their website. Let's explain what I mean by this. And we are open, by the way.
Yep, market is open. Let's see what the tick does here at the open. It's down 175, down 41 here. So about even here on the open. Advanced decline nicely up at about 38.26. So again, 3,800 companies more opening in the green than the red this morning. VIX has come down to 1613. Again, I will tell everybody this is sort of the time you want to look to maybe pick up some VIX, calls for the future here. You want to buy that protection now before volatility comes. Steve, Scott Bauer, so many of our different professional traders always mention that. So I try to bring it up every day here when it is low.
Nvidia is pushing here up $1, but McDonald's, Mickey D's there now up 3.3% there. I'm not, I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean I'm right. Google slipping a bit here, but Nvidia pushing 131 now on Nvidia. For those of you who know, I went and picked it up down there. I bought more and I doubled down. And if you're with us right now at 133, I'm flat. So we're almost there, back to where I thought we would be. So
yeah, I'm actually up slightly. As you know, I got in. I didn't go in the first buy that you did. I joined a little later. So
you'll be happy to know. Look, I did my channel checks. You can't even buy the new RTX 5090. It's 131.51 now on Nvidia.
Yeah. Nice move up by the Mag 7 in general here. Everything except for Tesla moving to the upside. Tesla's still under problems here. You know, I will say I think that Musk's foray into government is definitely hurting the stock. There is no doubt that people are souring a little bit on his, you know, his tweets. It seems nice move up by Netflix today, back over 1,000. Steve, you were one of the first analysts to call for that move of theirs to break 1,000 last year, and nice move here, 102.6. How far do you think Netflix?
I watched I love the commercials for the Super Bowl. I think they're funny a lot of times. Sometimes they miss, right? But you're spending $8 million for a 30-second clip. Disney Plus had a very interesting ad. It was talking about all the things they own, between Star Wars and all of the things I didn't even know that they owned, right? The Disney Plus channel, Nat Geo, and all that. I knew that, but they're making a big push to get those 700,000 subscribers they lost. You know, 215 million people watching the Super Bowl. Watch that commercial, and guess what? That might have had an effect, right? I think so. So let's see, 131.60 now, and Bitcoin 97.9 now. So back to 98,000. Most of you know I sold quite a bit of Bitcoin at 98 too. So not back to where it was, but it was better than what it was over the weekend, right? So
yeah, we got to talk about, you know, we know Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy bought $732 million worth. It does make you, you know, Steve and I were talking about it before, you know, because you got to worry if he's the only one holding up the market, what happens when he does stop buying? Because eventually he does.
He's going to run out of money eventually. Yes, he's going to run out of money. But he made $1 billion in arbitrage. So.
Yeah, you know, that's what I pointed out, Steve. Is I pointed out to you that, you know, yeah, he's making this huge bet. There is no doubt. I think that you saw, you know, after his earnings report that they are looking. You know, it's now called Strategy with the B. Soon that will be Strategy Bank with the B as the Bitcoin Bank. That's what he wants to be. There's a lot of talk throughout the Twitter world about that. You know, but it's up today nicely after that. You know, every time they announce, the other part that's positive for me a little there is every time that they do announce a buy, it moves it up, not down. So it doesn't seem like it scares the investors in MicroStrategy when they buy more. And what I talked to you about a little bit is, you know, what you're seeing is a little market manipulation by the whales. What they're able to do is when they see a huge amount of long leverage, they're going in, they're liquidating that leverage because they know they got a built-in floor when Michael Saylor starts buying, right? So right now, that's what we're seeing. So you got to beware. I think we're going to be in this same range for a little bit. I don't see a breakout. I think we're here for a little while until some other news has to happen. One of these strategic reserves, whether it be Utah, Iowa, Wyoming, all, you know, in the final stages of passing their bills, I think that would be where you see the next impotence for the move up above that 110 level.
I see Nucor really pushing higher here. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, all the steel companies, Clifford now up, Cliffs, excuse me, up 14.9%, Steve, almost 15%. Nucor up 6%. STLD. I mean, I put together a new one that I was watching a little bit. If you're looking for a laggard a little bit, Worthington right now, WOR is an interesting one here, up about 1.88%. I did want to mention, we wanted to talk a little bit more about this, the tariffs and everything there. And I asked ChatGPT to break down other industries besides the ones that everybody is already moving into, which we see, which is the steel companies directly. What else would be beneficiaries? They pointed out a bunch of different firms in different sectors to keep a look at. In construction and engineering, FLR is one to keep an eye on.
Sure. Yeah.
They are an engineering construction firm that does large scale industrial and infrastructure projects. Talk that they would be one, would be a benefit in both North Carolina and from the wildfires. Another one was Jacob Solutions. They specialize in civil engineering, defense, and infrastructure. So you still have some ones that if you're looking for ones that haven't taken off yet, look a little bit outside those sectors. Another one that came up, or another sector, was steel-intensive infrastructure firms. Again, you like URI in this one that I mentioned to you before, right? United Rentals, they are up a little bit here. VMC is another one when it comes to transportation and infrastructure that they liked. MLM, another one. Martin Marietta, I know you've always been a big fan of theirs, right? They rebuild a lot of our bridges and roads, so could be some other plays in there. They give you a little bit more alpha, a little bit more room to see it move up, and look for that sympathy play in some of these other industries that are out there.
And I know that get back to it. I know that Ron Williams was asking about Powell Industries, right? So if you can pull up their website, I think this is or I can do it, one of the other two. So Powell Industries. One of the things I like about Powell is that they have a lot of products. If you go to Powell Industries and you look at there's a button down.
Pull it up. Give me 1 second here, sir.
That they have a lot of products, right? Circuit breakers, switch gears for industrial versions, right? So it's huge, and I do like that part. If you look at the products at the top there in the left-hand corner, there's a lot of products here. If you look to the right, this is what I like the best: services. They not only put those things in, but they service them. So once they put that breaker in, they've got locked-in contracts for years. And they also do training. I mean, they have a lot of things I like. I like Powell a lot. But are we in that structure mode now where we're constructing heavy equipment and big things? The answer is probably not yet, but we will. So you would have to be a much longer term trader here, investor in this case for me. Yes. Wow. NVIDIA now $3.50 here. And the dollar is ticks falling here. Dollar's holding steady here. So the tick is dropping down 400, yet NVIDIA is at almost 3% here. So wow, good for them. Adobe up 3.4% there.
Yeah. I will say Tesla getting hit here is getting close to my target. If you remember, I targeted this 330 area for that retracement to continue to. Now down at 352. I do think we see it fall to this 330 level without a doubt. We do see the tick moving down, advanced decline moving down almost 2,000 here, Steve. So it does look like that exuberance is blowing off a little bit here. Mag 7 definitely carrying the NASDAQ today up at 527.60 here. Highs of the day and continuing to move up here. So that's still working. All the major indices to the upside here. We see the Dow Jones up 24 basis points. We see the SPY up 40 basis points. Like I said, NASDAQ, the big leader, and even the small caps are up 25 basis points here with the RUT at 22.8530. Bitcoin back down at 97,491. So it has dropped off a little bit since open here. Gold, though, nicely moving right back up towards those all-time highs. It hasn't been able to break above that 29.11, but right close to it right now. Cocoa down about 1.41%, Steve. That was a big topic in Hershey's earnings report on Friday. They had gotten hit a little hard there. Let's see what they're doing here today.
Well, for me, cocoa right now is part of Hershey's, but I'll tell you, the parks are about to open. And when those parks open, I think you'll see Hershey stock going right back up. So last year we talked about Hershey's, and I liked it when the big run happened. I was right there with it. I will tell you it'll happen again because Hershey's in Pennsylvania is pretty much the only park that if you're close, that's there for them. And they sell
in the middle of the state, like near nothing else. It draws people from.
And they have a summer annual pass, and they get sold out within minutes because that's all there is to go to in Pennsylvania. So because of that, that's where they usually end up. So yeah, Yeah, Nvidia just slipping back just a little bit now after that profit taking that run there to 134. Wow.
Yeah, it does look like we're seeing a little bit of profit taken here as the first 10 minutes wind down. Tick is negative 200, advanced decline, sitting just under 2,000 right now. So it has bounced back a little bit here.
Hearing reports that 30 people have died in a Guatemala bus accident here.
I will see the one that's got me scratching my head a little bit too is China here. Again, I guess people feel that Trump and Xi are going to make amends and not have this tariff war, because Alibaba up 4.25% here this morning, Baidu up 4%, JD up 2.24%. I'm not buying this one. This would be another area I'd probably be looking to fade here today if I see continued strength out of China. I don't trust it. We've talked about it again so much on this show. So one that I'd be looking to short there. Surprised they're up so much here on that news.
I mean, to me, China is about one thing, whether or not that the accounting is correct, right? But if it's Alibaba, BABA, right? So I do like Alibaba. I have liked it for a long time because I think that there's a lot to like about Alibaba. But you're right. It's all about whether or not Xi Jinping and Donald J. Trump can get along. If those two can get along and everything's good and the tariff war stops and we get back to normal, then yeah, Alibaba is going to explode to the upside. We talked about Meli, Mercado Libre. I'm still
one pointed out, we bought it on this dip back down here at 1650. It made that huge jump up the next day, so we sold out of it. We said originally we both were looking at a swing trade for it to come up to 2,000 here. It's recovered all of it. So, again, if you're looking at that e-commerce and you think that Mexico is an area you like, or South America, Mercado Libre basically is the Amazon of South America. So it has regained all of that there.
And Nvidia not stopping here, back up $4 a share here today. Whew.
Yeah, we'll say MicroStrategy too, back up to 335 here, up 2.55% this morning. Nvidia 133.
Intel's up 2.5% here.
Seeing UiPath up about 4.5% here today too. So a little bit of movement here. Software company. They don't have earnings or anything. Not sure what the news is here that's moving UiPath up here today, but they are getting a nice little move to the upside. Tesla, one of the big losers, still down 2.36%. Looks like banks getting hit a little bit here today, Steve. Wouldn't you think the fact that they don't have any regulators overlooking them right now would be a good sign?
No, because there's going to be some restructuring in that department. They might destroy that one and put them into the Treasury again. There's a couple things that could be happening here. Obviously, the Fed
and they are. I mean, it's again from what I've heard out of UST is look for them to take back a lot of departments and areas that they used to be under Treasury that sort of got spun off. I do think we are going to see a lot of that.
As it should. It always should have been under there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was created by my least favorite senator, of course, Elizabeth Warren, who got that put in place after the 2008 financial crisis. Thank you to Jacob Wood for sharing some of that info with us. Jacob is one of Quasar Markets contributors, who is the man when it comes to everything on Capitol Hill. Former member of the Trump White House on the first administration. Steve, Schwab, I saw TD. You and I don't really couldn't figure out why this is on this one too. They're down because TD Ameritrade, or TD Bank, excuse me, has announced that they're going to sell their 10% share in Schwab. Were you surprised by this?
Yeah, actually a little bit. I thought the TD Ameritrade Schwab deal together was very good. I mean, I'm a big fan of Charles Schwab, and I'm as a contributor there as well. And I'll tell you that, but TD Ameritrade is a smart company. TD Toronto Dominion Bank, that's what they are. They're a good company, a good bank. They're quality. I know a lot of the people that work there. And I'll big shout out to them. They know who they are. And friends. And I'll tell you, they're doing the best they can for their own bank. So I understand that if that doesn't work out for them, they don't have to do that. But I like the partnership at first. I still do. But that's their company, and they have the right to do that. So I have nothing against it. They got to do what they want to got to do, right, to survive in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, I did say that I thought that Schwab was a little overblown at that 83.32 area was their strong resistance, just below their all-time high. So it's not like it's a surprising spot here. Any kind of retracement and bounce towards this 50-day MA at 78.64 could be a nice little spot to get yourself into a scalp on Charles Schwab here. I do think they're a good company. I think they are going to jump into crypto this year, as they've talked about, and I do think that will help them. I had a takeaway that I got this weekend too, Steve. We talked a little before we came on. Coinbase. Coinbase's money under management now would put them as the 21st largest bank in the U.S. I thought that was interesting, and they would be the 8th largest, broker. So, we're talking about Schwab and some of these other ones there. What do you think about that? I mean, I actually, I think Coinbase is going to be a big winner under the new administration as things turn out here.
Depends on what leverage Brian Armstrong has. Is he part of the administration, or is he on the outside?
He's on the inside, from what it seems like.
It does sound like he's on the inside, and it does sound like he's putting some input into it, and it does seem like he might be on some boards to help the White House.
Yeah, he just so people know too, Coinbase has spent more money on Capitol Hill probably than any other company out there. Right. Yeah. So he is firmly entrenched. The Blockchain Association, run by Kirsten Smith, is basically bankrolled by him, and has been. So that's why I think they're in a position. And I want to point out that they purchased they've purchased CFTC, regulated commodities exchanges already, and they're looking to use that as a place. They're launching their own ETFs now, so they're really moving into that world, and I think they are well suited. So I do think that Coinbase is interesting for me.
I wanted to point out here that Joe Kunkel, I really watch him. For those of us who trade options here, somebody bought 5,000 June 192 calls. It's way out of the money. OTM out.
Wow.
Kaboom! I mean, you're talking about June, right? I may just keep.
And that moved to 10 cents a share, and you're talking about, wow. I mean, that's not a small little buy there. 5,000 times 3. You
100 times $3.35 now. So that's a big buy there. Now we don't know why, but that's what we just noticed.
Yeah, it could be a hedge. I do want to warn that. I do know there are some unscrupulous people in the world of Twitter out there that will just throw these numbers at you when it comes to unusual options and tell you that is definitely bullish. You should buy. And that is not necessarily the case. Steve, could you break out that a little bit more for our viewers? Because I think that's important. This could be a hedge, could be part of a very complicated trading strategy.
But when it's out of the money this far and it's a call, it could be a naked call, just straight up naked call being bought. So you've seen now where NVIDIA, once that came out a few minutes ago, you see now the stock's up 3.4%, up $4.50, up almost $5 earlier. Wow. We're all in the money now on NVIDIA, huh? I'm going to say long. I don't think I want to stop because, the sale of the RTX is so good right now. There's no reason to stop. I think the sell-off in NVIDIA that happened because of DeepSeek, that's silly. That should have told you that we should have been selling more RTXs, right? Because people.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, I told you this when I bought it. This is a hold for me for probably most of the year.
Too.
I understand there'll be days where I'll be shaking my head and saying, why didn't I sell yesterday? But this is one that I just could explode at any point. All it takes is,
and you and I have talked about that big gap. I think it fills the gap. I really do. Yeah. I think the gap there a few days back gets filled.
Yeah, it's moving to it today. Yeah. So we're definitely not scared there. Tesla, like I said, 350 is now maybe its support, first zone of support here. held up at 350.50, but it's still looking weak. I do think it still pulls back to this 330 area here. I don't have any faith. I am fading the Musk at this point.
We're now hearing Joe Kunkel says that 20,000 contracts now are bought at that same spot. So, wow, 4 times now as much. So somebody really believes in NVIDIA right now, all the way back to 100.
Because that's too expensive for retail to be following. The retail doesn't really follow at $300 a purchase. They follow when those things are penny stocks and 1 or 2 pennies. So that's there. I will say ticks move back to the positive side here, Steve, slightly, and advanced decline has moved back above the 2,000 level. So we are seeing here, after some profit taking, does look like the markets want to move to the upside a little bit here. We are 20 minutes into the open. Let's take a look and see at our biggest movers so far.
Brazil's Haddad now denies the report on big tech tax amid U.S. tariff plans. He's saying no tax on them. So I'm going to put that right into there you go. He's denying the report on big tech tax amid the U.S. tariff plans. So Brazil's right on board with Mr. Trump here now, President Trump. So, yeah.
I will see seen Western Digital move up here since the open. It wasn't one of the pre-market movers, up about 5.34% here, nicely moving up. So Western Digital catching a little bit of a flyer here today.
Storage is still big, right? I mean, you need storage to save. I mean, when you start to make all these ChatGPT inquiries, you need to save it somewhere, and you can save it in the system in ChatGPT or the OpenAI Perplexity or whatever you're using. But eventually, you're going to save it into into more pictures. I mean, I went boating over the weekend. Guess what? I took a bunch of pictures and video. And my camera is now bigger and better. And Western Digital is going to do well. The other one I think is Seagate. That's STX. Will do also probably up as well on that too as well. I think those companies are going to do very well.
Yeah.
Ooh, STX looks good.
And Western Digital, heavily involved in data centers, constructions, everything there. So they're moving up nicely. I'm seeing Uber, which we know had gotten beaten up, actually not beaten up, jumped up after earnings, jumping up again here today, up another 4.5%.
Well, we're seeing Bill Ackman obviously take a huge stake in Uber, and that's probably got that stock jumping, right? Over the weekend, guess what I took? Get around town. I took Uber. I mean, it's just it's easy, and I understand it, so totally get it. And this is another
Uber for me though is they're falling behind, because of their connection more with Tesla versus Waymo. They've been struggling when it comes to the auto taxis. That's the only concern that I personally have with Uber. I love all the other stuff that they have moving, but I do think that's the game changer for them, again, is going to be when they don't have to pay drivers, right?
That's right. Yeah. Hearing reports now, the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Trump says Palestinians would not have the right to return to rebuild Gaza.
Yeah, I try not to I just get too upset talking about that stuff. I don't get it. He's going to build the Riviera. And has he been to Gaza? He does realize it doesn't touch the water, right?
Right, it doesn't. No.
Yeah, doesn't really even come close. Although I guess Israel's small enough that everything's close to the water. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. Steve, another one moving up nicely here today is the trade desk. TTD up 4.25% here. Nice move up. Not really seeing any news.
Those of you who don't know what Trade Desk does, they're the ones who are the buyers for ads, and they set the software up. If you know me, there's 2 times when I like the Trade Desk. It's during sporting events, which we just had a big one, and the other one is during politics. The amount of money that was spent in the presidential election is just ginormous. And the Trade Desk was a big winner of that. And so they're seeing that.
Yep. And on that news, I just saw KeyBank has given them an overweight rating, moving their price target up to 142. So $20, about a 20% move up from where they are right now. Does have them as one of the movers here this morning. Those seem to be the big ones that weren't moving. Otherwise, Constellation Energy actually moving up here now today, Steve.
Yeah.
This one, this is one that I talked about. I liked to fill the gap back up. It is moving back in that direction again. I thought it was just, got hit too hard on the Trump talk. And, this company just has too much going on for it. So definitely moving up here back at 318.30, up 2.75% as we get ready.
I've talked about Constellation Energy. This is one that, you know, when they sell off and they do happen, buy it and add to. If you're a long-term investor, we don't tell people to buy and sell, right? Wow, Schwab is repurchasing $1.5 billion of its own stock. Well done for them. Well,
I missed that when I was telling. Yeah, they did say that they were going to buy 1 million of that 10 billion themselves.
Yeah, smart.
So
you can see that themselves.
they're definitely
burn those shares and be done with it. Yeah, totally
good to see that. Tell you what's holding up pretty well here is Boeing. Steve, are you a believer in that maybe here?
Yeah, of course.
182, you liking it?
We talked about it. Anything above that 150 handle, I said, look, it's smiling, and Boeing is getting out. Boeing hasn't been in the headlines for a long time, so guess what? Institutions are happy about that.
Right.
They still have a 5-year backlog on airplanes, right? They can't even make them fast enough. Yes, the people have asked for more money. Yes, they've had problems. Yes, there's strikes. Yes, they messed up a couple of planes, and yes, they're fixing them, and the strikes are over. And the news has slowed down. So guess what? They've jumped about 20% here. So, yeah, I still like Boeing. I think Boeing will get back over 200 soon. Will it get back?
I can tell you Citigroup agrees with you. They have just raised their price target to 210, keeping them as a buy. So, you know, we do see analysts are starting to trust this move here by Boeing. So it's good to see that in general. Trying to see what else is moving here tremendously. Seeing the software companies having a good day here. CRM up 1.12%. CrowdStrike up 1.31%. So seeing a pretty good move there. Take a little bit of a look into the sectors. We are seeing a little bit of a mixture here. So we've seen real estate go down. Actually, XLV is down the most. So healthcare is down the most here, down about 0.5 percentage point so far. Let me pull up my healthcare list here, and we can see what's moving there. UNH down about 0.5 percentage point here. So, HCA getting hit pretty hard here, down 1.58% this morning. So we do see that HCA down about 1.6%. We also see Merck down 63 basis points, and a lot of the others down. The only positives we see is Cigna is up 42 basis points and CVS up about 19 basis points. So healthcare dragging us down a little bit here today. When it comes to sectors, XLF, which is financial, and we talked about banks were getting hit here. You can see JP Morgan down about 1%, Wells Fargo 1.9. Let's take a look at Wells Fargo here. What is that? The problem is a lot of these are up towards their all-time highs. It's tough to really say. I will
say that I'm a little concerned about Eli Lilly. Those numbers on Zepbound and tirzepatide were very, very, very good. But not as good as they wanted them to be, and I didn't.
Yeah, and the rest of their results were not very good. Everything has really been that GP1s on those guys, right?
But they are, and I'll tell you, Novo Nordisk is the other one. I do like the fact, that they're building and working on a pill for longer term. Those people who just don't want to do the shot all the time, and they get it down, they get their weight down. And to keep that up, they need a pill, right? And so they're building that pill now. So, I think eventually everybody will be taking a pill or a shot for their weight loss, right? So to me, that's it. Yeah. Look at that.
Another one Ron Williams pointing out that we talked about on the show last week. I liked for a move back up to this area here. But I'd be nervous here at ASTS here. You're hitting that key resistance that I pointed out, has knocked it down on its last 4 attempts up there here. But strong move up by ASTS. They are ASTS Space Mobile. And it looks like they are getting some coverage from Cantor Fitzgerald here and giving an overweight rating here. So that's what's got it moving here right now. I was
going through my apps on my phone, which I don't like apps because there's just too many of them and I don't use them all. I only use a few of them, right? The apps I went through the other weekend was space apps, right? And I said, okay, let's look at where are the satellites in the air? Oh my goodness gracious! Do you know how many satellites are just over Florida alone, right? And they're moving more up there. Space junk is it's a huge problem up there, right? And I tell you what, the company that does that too and fixes that problem will be that one. Now, why is this important? Because we are looking to build a lunar base. This is not a thing now of TV and science. It's a real deal, right? They're really going to work on this till we can go to Mars. And ASTS has a big jump on this. So, yeah, I like this. I also like Lunar, LUNR here. It's up another 4% today, too. I've liked LUNR for a while now. And these companies are going to do very well. And money is coming out of Tesla. So you got to wonder if some of that money coming out of Tesla is going into these smaller space companies here.
I'm going to bring up a little bit. I didn't get to it earlier. Is T-Mobile has been up today. Now it is only up 2.38%. Was up a little bit more.
One of the best commercials I think is great. You know, one of the things when I'm on a cruise, I always make sure I have internet. And over the years, the internet is sucked on a cruise ship, right? And I loved it when you got in the port because then your phone's turned on. You got internet again. T-Mobile is partnered with Tesla for Starlink, right? I will never need. I use my phone now. I can use, if I have T-Mobile, I don't. I think you're going to see other companies starting to do the same thing, put Starlink in their system. In order to do that, you're going to need a Starlink system, right, in your phone, those chipsets. So look for the companies that partner with T-Mobile, Starlink, with Tesla to make those chips, make them powerful, so that, man, you don't even need to order internet on the cruise ship anymore. You just pick your phone and then you can use it anywhere you want, anywhere in the world. So, and that will also expand the usage. A lot of people don't like going camping or whatever because they're out of service, right? Yeah. Now the world opens up everywhere with Starlink. So I do like that a lot. But some of these countries are cutting back their Starlink service because of Elon Musk. I've always said Elon Musk he's a brilliant guy, but he's get out of his own way, right? Let the companies do what they do best. And this is it. But, man, I like this thing. I might think about go to T-Mobile.
I happen to be a T-Mobile user, so for me, I'm already in there. What I took away, too, is they will allow you don't even have to need to switch to T-Mobile. They're going to have this available as a $15 service to Verizon customers also.
Right.
So an AT&T,
open an AT&T and Verizon customer for $15 a month. And guess what?
So
I will probably do it if AT&T.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's at a price where a lot of people would take that and do it. I think it's a big move for both companies because, again, those satellite companies moving up.
Right. And look, what it costs per day on Starlink on a cruise ship is roughly $10 per person, right? Per
so that's right. So, and we'll have to take a little bit look tomorrow. You and I do a little channel check into RCL and what we think that will cost. I'll do a little bit of research into how much they make on their selling that services. RCL Internet. I'll take a look and see if I can find any info there so we can bring it to our viewers on what that could cost. I see that we have our man, Mr. Currency. We got to get over and talk a little bit about what's going on here. We know the DXY is taken off again, so let me bring him in here. We have our main man, Stephen Flanagan. How are you doing today, Mr. Currency?
Good morning, guys. Hope you had a good weekend. And wow, satellite on your phones. This is awesome.
Yeah, 500,000 square miles this is going to open up. That's crazy. It really is.
Incredible. You guys, I tell you pick up so many insightful pieces to pass along to the viewers. I love it. It's I learn every day when I listen into the show.
I mean, you think about this, Steve. Quick question, for you and me, we have been in the tech side of things, watching it in the finance space. Well, I mean, I always talk about how I started with graph paper and pen, right? And we've watched technology change and systems change. Will people be trading in the middle of the Sahara Desert now on Starlink and using their phones to buy and sell currency?
And throw in when stocks go 24 hours a day. Yeah, Steve. I mean, just open your phone up. You could be trading. You could be anywhere. Think about the freedom that gives guys like us who have sat in trading rooms the way you've had to be. Now you could be anywhere and trading actively and hedging anywhere in the world.
At any time, too, I think, too, right? You can wake up and not have to worry about your positions in the morning and banging the F9 key on the terminal. I totally understand that. Okay, great. All right, well, let's get to it, right to it, Mr. Currency. 108.22 here on the Dixie. Little concerned here that maybe she's topping out. I heard over the weekend several articles talking about where countries, and we saw Brazil again talking about it, the tariff talk might not have the bite that it did, say 2 or 3 weeks ago. Is that correct?
That's the way I would look at it, Steve. A lot of this is a lot of fluff. And then we get in the negotiating room, and then everything starts to get watered down. But I totally agree with you. I got this 108.52, 55 zone as a top. We get above that. But looking at a chart, anybody looking, you can see a topping formation in here. You put a top in the dollar index at 110.18, January 13th, and again at 109.88, February 3rd. So you've got two distinctive tops here, which we're going to have to get through. It's a kind of pausing area. Now, I've talked in many times, I don't think until we get into April, that's when I think the rockets take off, and King Dollar is going to break and set all new highs here. Looking for a 115 on that. But right now, I see a topping pattern in place. And I think along with that, tariffs don't have the bite. That could be something that takes a little bit of luster out of it here.
Yeah. And we just saw where Fitch talked about if the 25% U.S. tariffs on all Mexican imports, that highlights trade risks, right? So how does that affect the dollar peso here, the dollar mex?
Well, we're stuck right in the center here at 20.62.65. I have 20.88 as the top side, 20.02 as the downside. A break of either of those sides. Now, we've been above that on the weekend news of the tariffs a week ago, but it quickly came back down as, they turned out to be fentanyl and immigration and not trade. Right. Now the negotiations begin. Yes, Steve, if we do see a tariff against goods and services to Mexico or Canada, watch the dollar take off to the upside again. 20.88 is the point of break. And what that's going to indicate, though, there's going to be a lot of repercussions through not only the currency market, but look for the spill-on effects into the rest of the financial markets.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at it from this perspective, Fitch is calling for, if this happens, a recession in Mexico. I mean, this could really explode the dollar against the peso, right?
Definitely, Steve. And I think you're already seeing Mexico slip at 10% interest rate. It's highly restrictive. And they're still battling that game of inflation is still, month to month, inflation's still high. Mexico needs to lower rates. They've got to start stimulating growth. Canada, on the other end, has been doing just that. And they're beginning to see a little bit, at least the most recent releases, showing a tiny bit of growth coming back.
Fitch ratings, once again, now talking. They're coming out pretty fast and swift here. I'm going to keep posting these banners as they come in. Uncertainty over the state of U.S.-Mexico bilateral relations could persist until at least mid-2026 when a review of the USMCA, that's the NAFTA. Yep. Quick question there, then. Do we get back to the good old margarita days of 25 pesos to the dollar?
Only if there were goods and service trade tariffs, which would be meant to inflict damage in the Mexican economy.
Okay.
And I don't think we get to that point. I think this is totally open on negotiations, and I think cooler heads prevail, because why would not only Mexico, Steve, but why would Canada? Why would they want to ruin this perfect relationship between the United States? So I think in the end, the dust settles. It ends up being refined a little bit. Let's keep in mind, Mexico ran $180 billion surplus, the largest ever with the United States. So there's clearly still some problems there.
And you're right. And Mexico's President Sheinbaum now coming out saying, we're going to wait until hear if Trump announces tariffs on steel and aluminum for them too as well. So I think you're right. Cooler heads are going to prevail. I think you're totally right here. And I think that's why you're seeing a top here in the dollar mex. Very good. All right. Well, let's get right to it.
Go ahead, Steve.
The dollar against all the European market here. All right, let's get right to it, because right now the euro, I was asked, as my wife is from Belfast and she got a lot of friends, and they all asked me the same question. the question has always been the euro to the dollar has always been one that they always thought would be a parity issue, right? Because when it started, when the euro came out, it was under the dollar, and of course it went above and got pretty high, 120, right? Even higher than that in the past. Are we going back to parity or under parity with euro?
Yes. Simple answer. Yes. I mean, Lagarde is speaking ahead of the European Parliament today. And we know that the most recent elections was a strong shift to the right side. Let's call it the populist side. Yep. So she's going to be under some really tough questioning, as you and I both agree. They're so far behind the curve with Lagarde at the helm, and I believe she's going to be on the hot seat. Europe needs either substantially lower rates down to the low 2%, or they need fiscal stimulus. So take your choice which side. The fiscal stimulus side, they are restricted by the Maastricht guidelines. So,
but I mean, that seems like she swallows very hard when she says we're going to lower rates again, right? It's just like, it's almost like, okay, I'm wrong, but I'm right. I'm totally right. And now we're going to lower rates, and then the parity of the dollar to the euro, right?
You notice how she throws their entire team under the bus.
Under the bus.
Well, our models that the group are forecasting show she immediately hides behind. And this, take the US, you got Powell speaking before Congress and the Senate this week. Yeah. He's going to be in a hot seat, because they need to answer the tough questions of, are you looking forward, or what is this data dependency? Take the unemployment number. Everybody, it was a strong number. Okay, look at all those revisions. If we're going to be looking month to month on a number that's constantly being revised lower, then how can you drive the monetary policy on?
Right. You're absolutely right.
And this is what they're all going to be under the hot. Who's looking forward? Who's guiding? Nobody. And that's the problem with our central banks today, and hence the thesis behind why King Dollar will take off to levels not seen before, or not seen in a very long time.
And let's talk about that. Let's go all the way to Asia, and let's talk about China's deal today. They're allowing their people to buy gold, and they're going to be buying it with the yuan, right, and the renminbi.
Yeah, I saw that one. Gold is obviously suddenly, when you're seeing headlines, and I love the headlines because now they're talking about, gold is now the inflation safe haven trade. What happened to the crypto market? I thought the crypto market was the new safe haven play.
Right. That's very interesting you say that. This morning, Hondo and I were talking about it, that junk bonds are becoming very, very high, right? And I've said this morning, that the move in the junk bond says that the bigger investors, the institutionals, the toots, are looking for a place to put money into, right? They're looking for alpha. But here's what I said on the overarching thing, was that the move from asset class to asset class to asset class by the institutions are moving faster ever than before. So when are the institutions just going to move straight into currencies, and that becomes their big asset class outside of gold and everything else that they're working on right now? When do they move and tell everybody in the world they need to start trading currency?
Well, Steve, Business Week I read this morning had an article talking about how the banks are all beefing up their currency trading desks, something that they have not done in a very long time. We used to have 2-3 traders trading the euro dollar, or back in those days, the dollar mark. That's down to 1. Now you've got a dealing desk of senior traders, because most currencies trade electronically, but still the manual voice trader offers a tremendous amount of sophistication in being able to gauge and anticipate markets. So currencies are an asset class. You want to buy gold, you jump into the Aussie dollar, maybe even the Canadian dollar. Today, you've got so much geopolitical risk that the dollar is the asset class to want to be in. From that asset class, now you can look at real estate, you can look at bonds, junk bonds, you could look at equities, you can look at CDs, you can do anything, and that's why currencies are an asset class. And as we saw from over the weekend news, one of the big guys has a record amount. I forget how many was it, 10.5, $11 trillion now under management. And under management means you have computer models that are running the balances left and right. And of course, so many of them have moved to a slightly overweight condition in the dollar. But when you look around the world, slightly is not really probably the right position. You need to be, overweight in the dollar as an asset class.
So are you saying that the central banks around the world are buying U.S. dollars again?
I think that.
Steve, did you hit the?
Steve, you just hit mute on us. You just muted yourself. No, I can't do it. You got to do it. Not yet. You got to hit something there, Steve.
Mic isn't connected.
Yeah, because I can't reconnect.
And I totally agree with what he's saying. I mean, look, you've got to see these banks starting to buy across the world. If they're going to get into China is really going to get into gold. Gold's really into the dollar. If you're going to get into oil, which China still is, they're not going to be buying it in the yuan. They're buying it in the dollar. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what he's saying. And I'm sorry I missed the last part because he was really into it there. So
there he is. He's back. He's back.
Sorry,
they were trying to silence you. All the banks were trying to silence you.
Yep. But, dollar has to be an overweight right now in portfolios. These big portfolio managers, the problem is that if you look at just the microscope of the dollar, then I'm slightly overweight because my models have never been, looking back 20 years, have never been dramatically overweight. We've always been overweight in the euro dollar because the euro was the new reserve asset.
Right.
But that scenario, when you begin to open up your view and look at Europe, they're floundering. You've got numbers out. You've got on Thursday, the Eurozone industrial production expected to be down almost 0.5%, down 3.1% year on year. So Europe is not stimulating any growth, not to mention when we talk about, the AI world and all the development going on, they're way behind the curve on that. So when you begin to look out at the world in Europe, you've got to begin to reserve manage, and that's going to have to be exiting some of that liquidity in the euro that you've been holding. Mm-hmm. Back into Asia, you're probably looking to pick up more of the yen.
You just took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
Right. Steve, I know that you love that, that play, especially after your trip there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of sushi I bought on that dollar. Yeah. So look, okay, well, it's 10:15, and look, Steve, it's as always, Mr. Currency. Thank you so much for. We'll see you right back in a couple of days, right?
Couple of days, we'll be back, and let's see what this dollar yen does, Steve. We're sitting at a tough level, 151.65. You see how quick it came back off that high of 152.20 on its move back up today. So there's still a tremendous amount. The yen is the one I would highlight. Keep an eye on that. That tells the story for the week.
And are you worried? Does that invalidate your upward move if it breaks below the 150.85 mark?
I still think we're going to see dollar yen into the mid 147, 146 zone. Where I think it'll begin to stabilize. But the market is short of yen still, the longer term positions. Yen is the play outside of the dollar.
And do we have any other central banks this week that we're watching there, Steve?
Nothing else this week. The next central bank up is ECB.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Always a great pleasure to have you both on with me every day. Steven, you in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and of course, BigBeat every day. We will be back at 12 o'clock with Agnieszka Wood going over our trading mindset. We have a new guest in at 12:30, Mark Petrino. Excited to have him, one of the charted market technicians that is going to be joining us to go over technical analysis. We're going to talk about his Substract channel that he has, but a great guy there. We're back at 1 o'clock with Scott Bauer and the folks from Prosper Trading. So everybody have a good day. I'm going to put you on the spot, Big Beat. I didn't ask you before we go. Do we continue to move up today? Are we going sideways? What do you think we're going to do here? Up 1.21% on QQQ already.
I think it's as good as the Eagles were last night. I think we continue to push on up.
There you go. Fly, Eagle, fly. I don't think I'd ever say that, but everybody have a great day.